It started with a text thread that spiraled out of control. "Let's do a reunion weekend," Sarah suggested. "Somewhere remote, cozy, unforgettable. Unforgettable. If only we had known how prophetic that word would be." I'd been hesitant to join from the start. Returning to the mountains wasn't exactly on my bucket list after the accident, but peer pressure and guilt can do strange things to a person. A week later, I found myself at a desolate ski lodge deep in the Rockies, watching the snowstorm build in the distance. We arrived just before the blizzard hit. The Frostbite Lodge was everything Sarah promised. A sprawling wooden relic with high beams, dusty chandeliers, and a massive stone fireplace. It looked like it had been frozen in time. The kind of place where you half expected to see ghostly skiers gliding across the faded rugs. The first night passed in a haze of laughter, wine, and board games by the fire. Outside, the wind howled like a wounded animal, and snow piled up against the windows. For a while, I let myself relax, letting the crackling fire and camaraderie soothe the unease gnawing at my gut. But sleep didn't come easily. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw flashes of the accident. The slope, the blur of motion, the sickening crunch of impact, and then the face of the man I'd killed. Alex. It wasn't my fault. Everyone had said so. Freak accidents happen in skiing. But guilt doesn't care about reason. The next day, the storm worsened. By afternoon, the windows were frosted over, and the power flickered ominously. We stayed inside, huddled in the lodge's main room, playing games and telling stories. I couldn't shake the feeling that the place was watching us. Shadows seemed to stretch and flicker in unnatural ways, and the wind outside carried a low, almost human wail. It was sometime after midnight when I first heard it, a muffled voice, faint but distinct. I froze, straining to listen. It came again, carried on the wind, almost like a cry for help. "Did you hear that?" I asked, glancing around. My friends looked up from their game, puzzled. "Hear what?" Sarah asked. "A voice. Outside." They exchanged glances. "It's probably the wind," Mark said, rolling his eyes. "Or maybe the ghost of skiers past." The others laughed, but I couldn't shake the sound. It wasn't the wind. I knew what I'd heard. Grabbing my coat, I slipped outside before anyone could stop me. The cold hit me like a slap. The snow was nearly waist deep, and the wind tore at my face. But the voice came again, clearer now. It was a man's voice, low and urgent. I followed it, stumbling through the snow, my breath puffing in icy clouds. That's when I saw the footprints. They were faint, almost erased by the snow, but unmistakable. They led away from the lodge, toward the woods. I hesitated. Every rational part of me screamed to turn back, to go inside and lock the door. But the voice called again, and something in it, or in me, compelled me to follow. The footprints ended at an old cable car station, its frame barely visible through the snow. The building was a skeletal relic, the wood warped and splintered by years of neglect. I pushed open the door and stepped inside. The air was thick with the smell of mildew and rot, and the temperature seemed even colder than outside. "Hello," I called, my voice trembling. A shadow shifted in the corner. My breath caught as a figure stepped into the dim light. He wore a mask, an old ski mask, the kind with slitted eyes that seemed to bore into your soul. "Clara," he said, his voice low and steady. "I've been waiting for you." Before I could react, he lunged. The next moments were a blur of panic and struggle. He was stronger than he looked, dragging me out of the station and back toward the lodge. I tried to scream, but the wind swallowed the sound. Inside the lodge, he tied me to a chair, his hands trembling with a strange, almost reverent fury. "Do you know who I am?" he asked, pulling off the mask. I stared at him, my heart pounding. His face was gaunt, his eyes sunken and bloodshot, but there was something familiar about him. "You don't remember," he said, his voice breaking. "Of course you don't. You killed him, and you didn't even bother to know his name." The pieces clicked into place. "Alex," I whispered. "You're his brother," he finished. "And I'm here to make you pay." My mind raced. "It was an accident," I said, my voice shaking. "I didn't mean to." Accident or not, he's dead because of you, he snapped. And now, you'll know what it feels like to lose everything. He turned away, pacing. That's when I saw them. Strange carvings etched into the walls. Symbols and runes that seemed to pulse with an unnatural energy. My skin prickled as I stared at them, a deep, primal fear clawing at my chest. You've seen the markings, he said, noticing my gaze. They're part of the curse. The mountain doesn't forgive, Clara. It demands justice. The hours blurred into a surreal nightmare. He ranted about the myth of the mountain's curse, how it sought vengeance for those who died unjustly. I didn't believe in curses, but the air in the lodge felt heavy, oppressive, as if the mountain itself were alive and angry. As dawn approached, the storm reached its peak. The lodge groaned under the weight of the snow, the walls creaking ominously. My captor's resolve seemed to falter as the carvings began to glow faintly, their light pulsing like a heartbeat. What's happening? I whispered. It's the curse, he said, his voice trembling. It's coming for us both. The next moments were chaos. The lodge shuddered, the roof caving in as the snow's weight proved too much. I screamed as the world collapsed around me. When I came to, I was buried in snow and debris, but alive. My captor wasn't so lucky. His body lay twisted beneath a beam, his eyes wide open in terror. But it wasn't the sight of him that haunted me. It was the carvings. They were etched into my memory, their glow seared into my mind. And as I crawled out of wreckage, I realized something chilling. The curse wasn't done with me yet. The cold bites harder than you expect. Even if you /u 2019V prepared for it. The kind of cold that creeps through layers, clinging to your skin like it belongs there. I remember pulling my scarf tighter around my face as Lena and I stood on the edge of the frozen lake, staring at the vast expanse of white under a sky ablaze with green and purple ribbons of light. The Aurora Borealis /u 2014 a natural wonder. I /u 2019D promised her. She /u 2019D never forget. In retrospect, I wish I could forget myself. We /u 2019D arrived at the cabin a day earlier, a cozy spot miles away from civilization. No cell service, no Wi-Fi /u 2014, just the two of us and the wilderness. It was supposed to be romantic, a chance to reconnect. We brought along ice skates, a thermos of hot cocoa and blankets, planning for an unforgettable evening under the northern lights. The lake stretched out before us, smooth and inviting, a perfect sheet of glass beneath the shimmering sky. We laced up our skates and stepped tentatively onto the ice. At first, it was magical. Lena laughed, her cheeks flushed pink against the cold, and I couldn't /u 2019T help but smile. We glided hand in hand, our movements clumsy but joyful. It felt like we were the only two people in the world. But that feeling didn't /u 2019T last. It started with a sound. A faint cracking noise, sharp and sudden, like someone snapping a twig. I stopped skating and tightened my grip on Lena /u 2019's hand. /u 201C, did you hear that? /u 201D, I asked, my voice muffled by the scarf. /u 201C hear what? /u 201D, she replied, her laughter fading. She followed my gaze toward the shoreline, where shadows danced beneath the northern lights. That /u 2019S when we saw it. A figure standing at the edge of the lake, barely visible in the dim light. The person /u 2014 or thing /u 2014 wore a tattered parka. It had pulled up, obscuring their face. They stood completely still, watching us. I felt an unease creep into my chest, though I told myself it was just a late-night skater, someone like us, drawn by the beauty of the lights. /u 201C looks like we /u 2019V got company. /u 201D, I said, try and keep my tone light. Lena squinted at the figure, then shrugged. /u 201C, maybe they /u 2019 re, just admiring the view. Let /u 2019S keep going. /u 201D. We resumed skating, but I couldn't /u 2019T shake the feeling of being watched. Every so often, I glanced back at the figure, They hadn't backslash you 2019 T moved. Not an inch. Then the footsteps began. At first, it was faint, a rhythmic crunching sound that echoed across the ice. I turned again and my stomach twisted. The figure was walking toward us, their movements unnaturally deliberate. The thin ice groaned under their weight, but they didn't backslash you 2019 T seem to care. They just kept coming. Backslash you 201C marked. Backslash you 201D Lena whispered, her voice trembling. Backslash you 201C we need to go. Backslash you 201D. I nodded, and we started skating back toward the shore, our pace quickening with every step. The figure kept advancing, closing the distance between us. I dared another glance over my shoulder and froze. Their face backslash you 2026. I backslash you 2019 LO. Never forget it. The hood had slipped back, revealing features locked in a permanent grimace, as though frozen mid-scream. The eyes were wide and lifeless, staring directly at us. Backslash you 201 Saran. Backslash you 201D I shouted, grabbing Lena backslash you 2019's arm. She stumbled, her skate catching on a crack in the ice. She went down hard, crying out in pain. I dropped to my knees, trying to help her up, but the figure was already upon us. It reached out with skeletal hands, its nails blackened and jagged, as though frostbitten. The ice beneath us groaned louder, and then it happened backslash you 2014, a deafening crack, followed by a splash. The figure plunged into the freezing water, its outstretched hands clawing at the ice as it sank. For a moment, there was silence. Then it resurfaced, its face mere inches from the edge of the ice. It didn't backslash you 2019 T scream, didn't backslash you 2019 T cry for help. It just stared at us, its grimace more menacing than ever. I pulled Lena to her feet, adrenaline surging through my veins. We stumbled our way to the shore, the figure backslash you 2019's hollow eyes burning into my back. When we reached solid ground, we collapsed in a heap, gasping for air. Backslash you 201, see what the hell was that? Backslash you 201D Lena whispered, her voice shaking. I didn't backslash you 2019 T have an answer. I still donned backslash you 2019 T. We hurried back to the cabin, locking the door behind us. I checked the windows repeatedly, half expecting to see that horrific face staring back at me. But the lake was empty. Quiet. Too quiet. Neither of us slept that night. Every sound made us jump. The wind howling through the trees, the creak of the cabin settling backslash you 2014, it all felt wrong, like the world itself was conspiring against us. The next morning, we packed up and left, cutting our trip short. As we drove away, I couldn't backslash you 2019 T help but glance back at the lake. It looked so peaceful in the daylight, the ice glittering under the sun. But I knew better. Later, I did some digging. The locals called it backslash you 201. See the Ghost Skater backslash you 201D backslash you 2014, an urban legend about a spirit doomed to wander the frozen lake, with a backslash you 2019D drowned decades ago. Some said it was a victim of thin ice. Others claimed it was something more sinister. Whatever the truth, one thing was certain. Those who encountered the Ghost Skater rarely returned unscathed. Lena and I survived, but we were never the same. Nights are the hardest. When the world is dark and quiet, I can still hear the faint crunch of footsteps on ice and see that twisted face staring back at me. It backslash you 2019 as a memory. I backslash you 2019 LO. Carried to my grave backslash you 2014, assuming it doesn't backslash you 2019 T find me again first.